Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ask Alice. Today I'm answering the question of whether I write to market or whether I write what I want to write, so my passion. And I think for me, I'm about 50-50. So I have read a lot of YA fantasy. I've done a lot of research into what is in a YA fantasy or a fantasy romance type book. And so I am making sure that I hit the expectations of the readers for what tropes and things that I'm using in mine. So clearly medievalism is in there, chosen one is in there, but I also want to make sure that if you remove, like for example in book one, if you removed Alex and Aaron's love story, you could still have Alex coming home, the king, like learning her place in the kingdom, the tournament in order to find a guy. She just doesn't find a guy or whatever. It would still work as a story. And then her going off to save the people she loves, to save Stefan and things like that. So it would work as a story if I took away the romance between her and Aaron. It would shorten the book a little bit, and I'd put back some scenes that I had to cut in that, but it would still be a perfectly functioning story without it. Now, whereas later on they are together and the stories would still work if I yanked out the romance. They wouldn't be as much fun, but I want to make sure that when I write a romance, it has a plot that stands on its own so that it's that I'm writing romance, but it's also, it's the secondary plot kind of thing. It feels like the main plot because of how important these characters are to the story in general and as part of the whole of the characters. But I like to write the story so that the story would work without the romance. It would just not be as fun to read for the fact that I'm writing for women who like fantasy. And let's be honest here, a lot of women who like fantasy like a little romance in their fantasy. But I'm aiming at the people who really like romance and also read other heavier fantasy that has really good plot structure and adventure and things like that in it. So I'm kind of trying to get all of those people. And I do write to my passion in that I love YA fantasy and I love romance. So shoving them all together makes it a whole lot of fun. I put a little bit more graphic details in it regarding the intimate scenes because I personally think that teens need to be exposed to more sex information that is not specifically closed door. I think they need to be taught a little bit more about it and have some lessons around it and that. And while not everybody agrees, that's fine. But I am the mother of a teenager and I have a tween who's going to be a teenager in another year and a half. And I want to write these scenes how I want my daughters exposed to them because I deal with different issues in them that are more of an adult nature, but this is why I say upper YA. So I deal with consent. I deal with being intimate once you're in a loving relationship, all this kind of stuff. But I'm writing it for teens in that I want them to see a different context. And it's not always like 500-year-old vampire banging the crap out of some girl. It's more an emotional connection. It's designed in a way that I would be comfortable with my own teenagers reading it. And so my plan is always I let my daughter read it. And when she reads it, she goes, "Oh, Mom." Then I know I've done it right. When she rolls her eyes at me, I've done it right. If she goes, "Oh," then it's a little far and we tone back. But if she reads it and I get an eye roll, I know I've done it right. But I do write about that because it is passionate to me to, well, the older people who read it love it. And then I write it in a way that I think is appropriate for the teenagers and to also expose them to really important context and things like consent and this kind of thing, but in a way that doesn't feel educational. And so that is writing my passion as well. But I do write to market in the sense that I know what are in other books, kind of what you need to make a good story in that, and I'm putting that in there. And I'm also hitting really great world building, and the characters are all getting their own like character arcs that help them develop into who they're meant to be, because you can do that in a 7-book series. You can't do that if you have a big cast and you have 2 books. But I've planned my stuff out. I know where everybody's going to end up, and now it's just the journey of getting each of them to where they're supposed to be. Some of them will get there earlier than others will, and some of them will struggle until the very end of the last book. That's okay. That way, depending who your favorite character is, something is going to happen with them and they're going to find their place. And it's awesome because regardless of who your favorite side character is, they're going to find a place and it's going to be great. And I think that's one of the things that helps make the story good and makes it more to market, is that whoever your favorite character is, you know something good is coming for them. And yeah, hopefully people are liking it. I mean, the reviews say that they are, but we'll see when more of them come out. People might change their minds. But that's my answer to whether I write to market or if I write for myself, at least in this series. And yeah, if you have any questions for me, drop them in the comments. I love answering your questions. And yeah, you guys have a great day. Bye.